observing and sculpting wild animals from around the globe. His specially commissioned work includes a pair of life-size cheetah in a bronze tree for the ruling family of Dubai, a large figure for the relaunch of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, and the monumental Millennium sculpture, The Waterhole, at the Natural History Museum, which incorporates over 50 animals. He has worked, traveled, and exposed his work around the world. We are very pleased that he's accepted to work with us on this exciting project. And indeed, as Clément has mentioned, he has been, and his work has been the inspiration for all of this educational project. It's a privilege to have him here with us today. Mark.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you are sitting, working on the sea ice up in the high Arctic with the Baffin Island, Bylot Island rocks coming pounding into the frozen sea here, and the flatness, the utter beauty of that incredible part of the world, when that is your studio, when you're traveling with your Inuit guides in probably the most beautiful part of the world I've ever been to, one gets hugely inspired. But the one thing I found, the more I learned, the more I traveled, the more I went across that country, the more I realized that actually the area is in huge danger. I was being told as I went on that the ice was forming later, it was melting earlier, it was less secure, it wasn't the ice that used to be there. There's change afoot. Now, it's easy enough as a sculptor to go and see beauty and to sculpt beauty, be it the landscape, the people, the wildlife. But the thing, if I came back from that trip without sculpting the horrors, the potential horrors ahead, it would be a completely insincere, incomplete exhibition of work. So I needed to sculpt this problem. And so I decided, I'm a bronze sculptor. I'm not an ice sculptor, I'm a bronze sculptor. I decided I wanted to create something in bronze. So a bronze it was to be. However, I was working, as I say, on the sea ice, commanded by ice. So I decided to mix the two. What a fantastic thing. Bronze and ice, the longevity of bronze and the fragility of ice being combined together. That was quite an exciting sculptural idea. So what I've done is I've created this skeleton of a polar bear in bronze, and we put it into a huge box, a tank, which we then filled up with water and froze it into a block. And outside, you'll see before too long the result. We took the block onto the square, and with my friends and partners here, Peter, Jack, and Duncan Hamilton, we carved it into a polar bear. Now, this polar bear, this sculpture, it is not just a polar bear. It's actually a sculpture of the Arctic. It's in the polar bear form. It looks like a polar bear, but it's actually a sculpture of the Arctic. If we leave that bear on the square here, in time, it's going to melt. And what's that saying? That's talking about the cyclical warming of the planet. The fact, the scientists tell us, and we know the planet is warming, whatever we humans do, it is warming. That's natural. So if we leave the bear, it's going to melt naturally. But I want people to go and touch it. Everyone who touches that bear will be part of it, will be a sculptress, young or old. When they touch the bear, they're going to melt it a bit. This is the human impact. If they touch it hard, they'll melt it lots. If they touch it with the tip of their finger, they'll melt it just a little bit. So that perhaps is a message I'd hope people will pick up. But there's so many parallels, so many similes, so many metaphors that come out of this sculpture. That's one. The cyclical warming of the planet, the human impact. But when you talk to the scientists, they say they don't know how long the multi-year ice, the summer sea ice, is going to last. I don't know how long that ice is going to last on the polar bear. A wonderful parallel. When it does begin to melt, when that bronze begins to come through the ice, what's going to happen then? The bronze is going to conduct the heat and draw it into the body of the bear through the skeleton. And that's going to start to melt that ice from within. That is a direct parallel to what's happening up in the north. When that summer sea ice is under pressure, it's retreating, it's getting smaller, annually getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The multi-year ice is going. You get this huge, big, black Arctic Ocean around it, which is just absorbing heat, not reflecting it. So it's warming the water and melting the ice from underneath. So that's another message that people need to realize. The parallel is there. There's always going to be an Arctic. Of that we know, we're guaranteed. There's going to be wildlife up there. It's always going to be a beautiful part of the world. But when that ice goes, it's going to be a very, very, very different Arctic from the Arctic that we know and we depend on now. In the same way, there's always going to be a bear out there. But when that ice goes from the ice bear, it's just going to be a very, very different bear. I want people from across the world to touch this bear, to become part of it, to feel it. When they feel the bear, they feel the Arctic, they feel the problem, they begin to understand it, and hopefully they'll become part of the solution to the whole issue. That's my dream. I want this bear to go on. And I'm so delighted that Exeter have taken the project on with Hotel de Glace and brought it here to Canada. My mission now is to take it further into the US, to Sydney, Australia. I wanted to go up through Hong Kong, China, Moscow. Imagine having all those Muscovite hands touching that bear, the Chinese hands touching it. People from across the world touching the Arctic. It's bringing the Arctic to the world. That's my hope. And thank you for helping me do that.
Thank you so much, Mark.